Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session on using Edpuzzle as an elementary school teacher. Now, we're just going to give folks a minute or so right here at the beginning to get set up, make sure everyone has a chance to get logged in. And so while we wait, I'm just coming over and click publish on a poll asking, how often do you use instructional videos in your class? So as you get set up, please take just a couple of seconds and answer that poll question that should be on the right side of your screen. So hello to anyone who just got logged in. We're just giving folks another 15-20 seconds to get set up. And while we wait, please take a moment to answer that poll question on the right side of your screen. How often do you use instructional videos in your class? Alrighty. So we're going to dive straight in. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and I'm Edpuzzle's curriculum director. Prior to this, I was an elementary school teacher myself who used videos in their classroom. And I'm so excited to be able to share the best practices we know for making videos effective for younger students. Now, before we dive in, I want to cover two quick housekeeping items. First, I want to mention this entire webinar is being recorded. So if you ever feel like you need to see something again, or if I ever move a little fast, don't worry, you're going to be able to replay and rewatch parts as many times as you need. The second thing I want to mention is I'm trying to keep this session as short and effective as possible. So I've deactivated the live chat, and we're not going to have a Q&A session today. But what I'll do instead is right now, publish to the top of the chat. You should see on the right-hand side a link to or an email to our support center. And so if you have questions, if you need follow-up after this session, please don't be shy. Please reach out. And I promise one of our team members will help you get started and help you out with whatever you need. So let's dive right in. I want to click end on this poll question I asked. And all right, there's actually more of a range of responses than I thought. I'd say most of us are in the a little bit or somewhat category for how often we're using videos. We have some people who are using it a lot, some people who are using it rarely. But what I notice is almost nobody is in that never category. And that's somewhat what I expected. Most of us are already using videos in our classroom. And that's why today we really want to focus on this question. How do I make the most of videos? So how do I go from using videos here and there to using them in a strategic, consistent way to create a significant difference in my students' achievement? Now, the key point and the most important point of making that happen is remembering videos are never going to be your entire lesson. We like to say that videos are just a piece of the puzzle or the Edpuzzle. And I think that's really important to remember. Videos do not do some magical job of explaining content better than you could as a teacher. However, what videos do is act like a clone of yourself or a little clone of yourself in the classroom, and they free you to do what you do best: differentiating instruction, supporting students individually, pulling small groups, leading hands-on activities, fostering student curiosity. Those are the important things. So when you use a video, it's not just about what the video achieves. It's about everything that you as a teacher can achieve because you're working and collaborating with that video in your classroom. And so I think that's the most important thing to remember. The biggest takeaway from today is videos are always just a piece of your lesson. Now, to show you what I mean, I want to take you over the next 20 or 25 minutes through 3 different classrooms. We're going to take a look at science class, writing class, and math class, and show how videos can open up the possibilities for what we can achieve. Now, if you don't see the subject area you teach here, that is okay. The things we're going to be talking about apply just as much to world language class or art class or English language arts. So it's okay if you don't see your subject area here. Still pay attention. It's still going to be relevant for you. And so I want to dive straight in, get straight to the examples. Let's start by looking at science class. So I'm a science teacher, and I'm teaching a lesson helping students learn to classify substances as solids, liquids, or gases by observing its properties. Now, when I think about teaching the states of matter like this, it screams hands-on activities. We don't want young students memorizing the definition of a liquid. We want them understanding and feeling and really building an internalization of what the states of matter are. That has to be hands-on. But the problem is, hands-on, it's hard to do, especially with younger students. If you have a lot of materials on the desk, it can be challenging from a classroom management perspective, but it can also be challenging for you to ensure that you're helping students have discussions where they use academic vocabulary, or you're catching any of those misconceptions that might be developing right as they come up. Doing a hands-on activity as a whole class can be challenging. And that's why we think science is a perfect place to look at using a station rotation model. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of station rotations before, but let me show you what the station rotations in this class are going to look at. So here we have our class. At station A with the blue students, that's going to be our Edpuzzle video. Students are going to watch a video. It's going to introduce them to the vocabulary of matter, states of matter, the definitions, etc. At station B, I, as the teacher, am going to be sitting. I'm going to have actual materials, actual substances for students to go hands-on with. And because they're in a small group with me, I'm going to have that control to make sure classroom management is on point, to make sure students are using academic vocabulary in those discussions, to make sure students are learning how to build off and critique each other's ideas and thinking. I'll be able to do all of that in my small group. Then over at station C, we have a spiral review activity, something where students are working with each other, just building confidence and fluency with some of those concepts from previous classes last week. So that's a look at how I want to structure my classroom. That's how I'm using videos to unlock the potential. It's not just about what's happening at station A with the video. It's about everything I as the teacher can do at station B. Because I have a small group, because I'm working with less students, and because I can really be hands-on and directly supportive of all of that. And so let me show you a little bit about what this could actually look like to turn into a reality. So I'm just going to come right now and flip over to sharing my screen. And here I am on Edpuzzle. Now, if I had time, I'd probably go about building my own lesson, but often as a teacher, it's hard to find time to do that. So let's reuse a video. Let's find one that already exists. So this top search bar, I'm going to go ahead and do a search for matter, or we could search states of matter. But here we go. And I've actually gone ahead and looked at these ahead of time. And I like this first video. It comes from a YouTube channel called Crash Course Kids. It covers the content students need to know, and it's really engaging. But just because I've found this video doesn't mean I don't have any work to do. I still have to put in the work and personalize this. So here I am. I just came over to edit the video, and we're going to move to the questions tab. Now, for any video I use, but particularly with younger students, I like to start the video with a note. Before I even click that play button, I embed a note, and I like to use an audio note so that students can hear my voice. So let's go ahead and record one now. Hi, everyone. This video is going to help you learn how to classify objects by understanding the different states of matter. Now, in this station, I expect you to be seated at your desk, watching the video and responding to the questions. By the end of the 15 minutes, you should have finished the video and answered all of the questions. Remember, if you have tech problems, to first ask your tech support member in your group before you ask me as the teacher. All right, enjoy. So now I'll just stop that recording. That's a 30-second note that I'll save into the video, and it's going to make a huge difference. You heard me clearly set out the expectations for what students should be doing. Now, we know it's important to set expectations in the classroom, and there's no reason videos are different. We want to set those expectations, help students understand what they should be doing, what to do if they get stuck, and set them up for success. Also, hearing your voice gives it that personal feel and helps students stay motivated and focused during the video. Now, after that first note, we of course want to embed questions throughout the video as well. So we're going to go through and we're going to embed questions, but I encourage you to think beyond just sticking in a few multiple choice and a few open-ended questions. So let's look right here. We've just presented the definition of matter. Rather than a multiple choice, let's embed a note right here. And let's give students a prompt. Let's ask them to, in a whisper voice, read the definition of matter to yourself 3 times. And I'm actually going to change to yourself. Let's make that more clear, out loud. So just like we'd prompt students to kind of whisper it in their head, read that definition, we're going to do that here. That's so much more engaging. It's so much more relevant for younger students than responding to a multiple choice question. All right, so let's keep moving. Let's just show one more example here, but let me find a good example of matter that we talked about. So they kind of go through the different states. Let's see. Oh, there was one example I was looking for with some rocks. No, it's the water would be okay. Just give me a second to find this one. Oh, there it is, right there. All right. So we're talking about these rocks that we see on her desk, and I want students to identify what state of matter are these. So I could go ahead and just embed a multiple choice, but I'm actually going to first again start with a note and then follow up with a multiple choice. So I could record it as an audio note, and I'm going to say, in your head, think to yourself, what state of matter are these rocks? When you have an idea, click continue. As you see, it's a super quick note, but I prompted like, before you look at the multiple choice question, think to yourself, what state of matter is it? So I embed that note, and then what I do is I get a little tricky. At the exact same point, I click below to add a multiple choice question. And then I'll ask students, what state of matter is a rock? And of course, I'll put in a solid, we can put in a liquid, and a gas. And so that's great because now students see the note, they think about the answer before they see the answer choices. So it prompts more of that recall knowledge rather than the recognition. It gets them thinking in their head before they're just guessing an answer choice. So obviously you would want to embed as many questions as you'd like. Do whatever feels right for you as a teacher and your class. But the main idea is be creative and make this video as similar as possible to the kinds of things that you're doing in the classroom and the instructional strategies that you're using. And so that's a look. That's how we made a science video to use in our station rotation. Let me flip you back over to the slides. So there we go. We've created our video. We've put in some of those instructional points just like we do in class as a teacher. But again, there's nothing magic about it. It's not like the video does an extra special job explaining something we can't. However, what the video does do is ensure you as the teacher are now free to focus your energy on station B. And every time students cycle through to give them that direct, that supportive, that small group instruction that's going to ensure they're successful and truly understand the content. So that's a look at science class. I want to keep on moving and give you a second just to get set up here. Before we move on, I want to make sure I give you a chance to reflect. And I know some teachers like station rotations, some teachers don't. So I want to ask a poll question, which is after seeing what we've just gone through, how interested are you in using a station rotation in your class? So if you're already using one, obviously select very interested, and then just let me know. So we'll give folks about 10, maybe 15 seconds to answer that question. All right, I see responses coming on in. Take another 5 or so. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click End Poll. And all right, I'd say some of us are in the little bit category. Most of us are in the little bit category. We have some who are a little more interested. A couple of us are not at all interested, but generally we have a little bit of interest or more. And that's okay. I recommend you give it a go. I actually think that especially if you establish this as a routine in your class, it can become really effective for your students to rotate through those stations. And for you as the teacher, working with small groups of students is so powerful. When I was a 5th grade teacher myself, my students had a huge range of skill levels. And so being able to segment them up into smaller groups, I could actually change or alter each station a little bit to make sure I was more effectively differentiating the instruction that students were getting based on what they needed. So if you have a classroom with a huge range of skill levels, station rotations are super powerful. And I hope even those of you who are a little bit interested, give it a try this year, see how you can get it working. But now let's dive on forward. And as I mentioned, the next class we're going to look at is writing class. Now, writing class was actually one of my favorite classes, but I also think it can be one of the hardest to teach. And the reason for that is students are always bringing their own ideas into writing. Every student has a different essay, different thoughts. And that means they always need really personalized feedback on what they're doing well and where they have areas to improve. And as a teacher, that was always a difficult point for me. How do I make sure I'm giving all of the 25 students in my class good, effective feedback as they're working so that they can improve their writing skills? And so, as you can imagine, we're going to use videos to make that more of a reality. And we're going to look at using these videos in a flipped classroom model. Now, you may have heard of a flipped classroom before, but there are two different ways I want to talk about it here. The first way is a regular flip. If you've heard about it before, this is probably what you've heard of. But in this model, students watch the lesson as a video at home. And that way, when they come into school, they don't have to listen to the lesson. They have all of their time to do work, to practice, and to get feedback. And so the idea here is pull the lesson, pull that direct instruction out of school time. Let students do it at home, and you'll have more time in school to work with your students. What I'll say for younger students is the key to success in this model is parental engagement. We can't expect second graders, third graders, those younger kiddos to really be self-monitoring and able to complete a video lesson fully independently at home. So if you want to go down the regular flip model, it is incredibly powerful, but make sure you're taking the time to set expectations with parents. Make sure parents have the capacity to be engaged. Maybe they'll watch the video with their children. Maybe they're just going to check and help their child get connected and started on the video lesson. But for younger students, having that parental engagement during a regular flip is so key. And I'm sure that's something many of you are realizing during remote learning is having parents help oversee, provide that quick feedback, sit with students as they're going through things. It really does make a big difference. Now, when I was teaching, I liked the flipped approach, but my students didn't have technology at home. And I didn't want to risk having missed parental engagement or any of that confusion that could come. And so what I did was an in-class flip. Now, in this model, basically, instead of you as the teacher teaching a lesson in front of the room, you record that lesson ahead of time and let students watch it independently at their desk. Now, why do you do that? Again, videos don't do a better job explaining than you could. But what they do is they allow you as the teacher to circulate the room. So because you're no longer standing in the front of the room presenting, you can constantly see who's doing what, where are students getting confused, give them that in-the-moment feedback, help them move on. And so this is a great way for younger students where you want to have a little bit more of that control and make sure you're holding strong expectations in your classroom. And this is the video I want to create. So I'm going to flip you over and we're going to take a look at a writing lesson where we're going to be helping students, this is probably upper elementary, learning how to develop their characters in a narrative story. And so here we are, flipped over to my screen, and I'm actually going to record my own video lesson here. So here's our lesson. We're going to start with title screen, introduce students to how to develop a characters. I'm going to model it for them. Now, this is all the exact slides I was going to use if I were just presenting this in front of my class live. So I haven't made special video slides. They're just the exact same as I'd use. But I'm going to use, here I have Screencastify downloaded. It's a Chrome extension. It's going to let me record my screen. Of course, if you want to use any other video recorder, you absolutely can. But here we go. We'll just start a recording. And I'm actually going to stay here, not full screen, so I can type on that modeling slide. So hi, everyone. Today, we're going to continue our work with narratives, and we're going to be focusing on developing the characters in your story. This is how we make characters come to life for the reader. Now, I want you to think about a character that you know from a book you've read. I want you to close your eyes and picture them. So I'm picturing SpongeBob with his yellow body, his skinny arms and legs, his big smile. I'm also thinking of his personality, his goofy laugh, how he always likes to be exploring and getting in trouble. It's so important that we do this when we develop characters. We describe the outside and the inside traits, etc., etc. I'd explain. Now I want you to watch me model how to develop characters for my narrative story. Now, if you remember, my narrative involved my grandmother. And so I'm going to take some time to develop her as a character. So I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to picture my grandmother. And once I have a really clear image, I'm just going to start typing. My grandma was a short lady who is only a few inches taller than me. She has short, curly, gray hair that sticks out all over the place. Sticks out in all different directions. And I could keep going. I'd type this paragraph. But for now, let's just keep moving forward. All right, class, now you're going to have a chance to do this. So open up your writer's notebook to a new page and write today's date on top. Great. Now that we're all on a new page, I want you to pick a character from the narrative story plan you've been developing. Then I want you to close your eyes and imagine them as clearly as you can in your head. When you have a picture, I want you to think about that image of them and start writing. Try and write 5 to 8 sentences in your notebook that develop the inside and outside traits of that character. And so just like that, we've finished this lesson, this mini lesson on character development. We'll pause, we'll end that recording, and there we go. So as you can see, it's just like a regular lesson because that's what you have to remember. Videos are not some magical thing that does more than you would do as a teacher. But again, by recording this ahead of time, you're going to free yourself up to better support your students. Now, I like Screencastify because we have this little button over here that lets us upload directly to Edpuzzle, makes it super fast and easy. So I recommend that. If you don't have Screencastify, don't worry. Just download the video and you can just upload it directly to Edpuzzle. So don't worry if you're not using Screencastify. But here, I'm just going to go ahead and we will upload this video straight to Edpuzzle. You can see how quick and easy that is. Boom. All right, so we're here in our content library, and we're just going to give it, it'll take a minute or so to process this video, and then I'll show you just quickly how I embed questions to turn the video into a video lesson. So we'll just give it a moment to finish preparing. Now the key here is we're just trying to add in prompts. We're trying to add in questions that engage students. It's not just about adding some assessment. It's about making this feel like what they do in class. So let's come over, we'll click edit. And this is my own video. So I'm just going to come straight up to the questions tab. And let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I might do is I might want to put a prompt right before I ask them to do something. And so here I ask them to think about a character from a book. And so I might type in a note and ask them to actually do that. Or here I could even do an open-ended question if I want some accountability. Which character are you imagining in your head? So that way they're prompted to actually stop. They have to type something out. They have to respond. They have to engage with the content. They can't just like play through it without thinking. Now let's go ahead. We'll put in another one. Let's do it right when I was modeling. So this is the key. Modeling for students good writing is so important. We know this in writing mini lessons. So let's embed a note. Make sure they're really paying close attention here. I'll go ahead and record as an audio note. As you watch me model this story, I want you to pay close attention to what I'm doing because you're going to have a chance to do this with your narrative right after. So then we can end that. And that's just going to make sure students are paying attention. They kind of see that break in the video. It jolts them back to be fully focused. So they're really committed when they're watching me model how to do that character development. Now in this lesson, the only other main questions I'd probably put is at the end, I was giving them prompts. So I said, hey, take out your writer's notebook, open to a new page, write today's date on top. I'm going to actually put in a prompt to do that here. So I'll just write it down, open your writer's notebook to a new page. And step 2 is write today's date on top. That way, again, the video stops until students actually do it. They have to affirmatively click continue. It's that commitment to make sure they're doing it as the video goes. And so then I'd embed that one more where I ask them what they should be doing to actually write their character development. I'll skip over that just to save some time right here, but we'd embed a note to prompt them in the exact same way. And so that's what it looks like. That's how we go about recording a lesson and then adding in some questions to boost student engagement, help them out. So I'm going to go ahead. We'll finish editing this and let me flip you back over to our slides. So there we go. 2 classes done. We've used a station rotation model in science class to get more small group time with our students. We just did an in-class flip lesson. So during class, I can circulate the room. I can give each and every student the feedback they need to advance their writing and the personalized feedback and support that will help them thrive. Again, it's not about the video. It's about what I as the teacher am able to do. Think about how many more students you could help if you didn't have to spend those 15 minutes at the start of class giving a mini lesson to your students. You have so much more capacity because you're using the video. So we're going to look at the one last subject area, which is going to be math. But before we go, I'm going to ask another poll question. And so this time, I'm curious. We talked a little bit about the two different models of flipping a classroom. I want to know which one you're more interested in. So are you more interested in a regular flip where students are watching the video at home, or an in-class flip where you're watching it with them and circulating to provide feedback? And I know this might be a little different while we're teaching remotely, but I just want you to think about which model you're more interested in. So take another 5-10 seconds. I see a bunch of responses already coming in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click end. Okay, similar to how I did it, most of us are interested in the in-class flip model. I recommend it. It works super well, both from a classroom management perspective. Actually, you have more capacity to manage. You also have just so much more capacity to give feedback. I do see a good number, almost a third of us are interested in that flipped classroom model. So if that is you, just remember the parental engagement piece. Send a letter home. Make sure at back to school night you're talking about it. Make sure you have clear expectations for how parents should be involved. That's going to make a key difference to your regular flipped classroom being a success with younger students. Alrighty, so we're going to dive in. Last class we're looking at together is math class. And in math class, we're going to talk about a newer feature of Edpuzzle and one of the best for younger students. It's called live mode. Now in Edpuzzle live mode, you project the video on your whiteboard, your smartboard for the entire class to watch together, but they're able to respond and do the work on their own device. Now, why is this such a game changer? Well, if you think about a normal classroom, let's say we're teaching math, we're standing on the whiteboard modeling a problem. We can't tell who's confused. There's a student in the back who's zoned out. We might not be able to get to them in time, or they have a misconception that we're not able to correct. Or there's a student on the other side who already finished this piece and is engaging fully. When we move to a live mode lesson, the video is standing in front of the class working for us. That means we can help students, we can move around, we can make sure everyone is where they need to be. Now we're going to be taking a look at a really young classroom. We'll take a look at a first grade classroom here where we're helping students with word problems involving addition and subtraction. And I am a firm believer that for math, students, again, need hands-on, concrete, manipulative work before they move into writing down equations and just writing numbers on a piece of paper. So I'm going to show you how you can make a better manipulative, involved lesson by using Edpuzzle Live Mode. And I'm going to do it by actually recording a video with a document camera. So document cameras, there are all sorts of different types. I'm just going to record through the one that my school gave me, and so I'm comfortable with it. But you can use any document camera, any camera that you want, really. So let me go ahead and flip you over. All right, so this is what it looks like. And let me actually turn off my camera. There we go. So I can write more easily without you seeing the top of my head. But basically, we're going to go through this lesson. I've got some Unifix cubes to work with, and we're going to help students model these problems. So let's go ahead, and we're going to start our recording and dive right in. All right, hello class. Before you start, make sure you have your worksheet and your Unifix cubes. And now we're going to look at problem 1. I want you to read silently in your head as I read out loud. Chris has 8 apples in a bowl. Then he put some oranges into the bowl. Now there are 14 pieces of fruit in the bowl. How many oranges are there? All right, well, before we do anything else, I want you to close your eyes and try and visualize this problem. Can anyone explain in their own words what's happening here? Well, when we look at this problem, the first thing we notice, that very first sentence, it says that Chris has 8 apples. I'm going to go ahead and underline 8 apples. Let's use our Unifix cubes to build that. So I'm going to grab one of my colors and let's count out those apples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So I've got ahead, and you should have counted out 8 apples with your Unifix cubes with me. Let's go ahead and label those. These are apples. So I'm going to write down apples. Oop, let's get that S. And we'll write in our number as well. We're going to put in the number 8. Okay, class, let's look back at our problem now. And the next sentence, it says that he puts some oranges into a bowl. Some oranges? That's confusing. That doesn't tell me how many oranges it is. I don't know how many cubes, so I'm just going to draw a box instead. I can fill that box up with cubes later, but I don't know how many it is, so I'm going to leave it as a box right now. And we'll go ahead, we'll label that unknown as oranges. All right, so there we go. We have our apples, our mystery is the oranges. Now there are 14 pieces of fruit in the bowl. Okay, well, if now there are 14 pieces of fruit, that means apples and oranges all together. So what I'm going to say is that apples and oranges together is equal to, the total is 14 pieces of fruit. And I'll put that down below with numbers as well. It's equal to 14. So now I want you to think about this. How could we figure this out? Well, in this problem, the apples and oranges are being put together. When we put things together, remember that that's addition. And so we'll write our addition problem is 8 plus a mystery. We don't know how many oranges, so we'll put in a blank space is equal to 14. Now let's see if we can solve this. How many oranges would I need to have 14 total pieces? Well, I'm going to count on from 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, I got to 14. So now there's 14 total pieces. Let's think about how many oranges is that? Well, we could count up. It's 1 orange, 2 orange, 3 oranges, 4 oranges, 5 oranges, 6 oranges. So let's write that number 6 into our blank. And that's what this problem was looking for. It asked how many oranges are there. And so we can see we counted our answer is 6. All right, class, great work on this first one. We're going to go ahead and have you try problem 2 now. It's going to be similar, so move your manipulatives, flip over to problem 2, and I want you to try this on your own. And of course, we could then go through a couple problems. You as the teacher can circulate. You're going to be able to stop and have discussions if you want. It's amazing. All right, so let's go ahead. We're just going to end this one for now. We're going to upload that video straight to Edpuzzle just so I can show you how to put in some questions. And then you'll be able to see what the full live mode lesson could look like. So I'm just going to click Add Content. We'll click to upload a video. And let's go grab that video file. So I'll just hop over to where I saved it. There it is. And let's get this one uploading back on. All right, so it's going to take a moment. I can turn my camera back on now that I'm no longer leaned over writing. But, oh, that was fast, actually. Great, here we go. So that lesson is ready to go. We're going to click on it, and we're just going to embed a couple questions again. Now, the key takeaway, I've been talking about this a bunch, but don't just limit yourself to multiple choice and open-ended questions. Remember, this is projected in front of the class. You're watching it together. And so you can add discussion prompts where the whole class will stop and you'll all be able to discuss things together. Now, what I might actually do at the beginning is just put in a note for myself. So start by making sure you have your worksheet and Unifix cubes. So that way, before we start, I'm going to make sure all the students have their materials. It's just a prompt for me to remember to pass things out. Okay, great. So we've got that in. Let's get started, and we'll move through this lesson a little bit. So first thing we might do is whenever there's a lot of work that needs to happen, well, actually, we had this discussion question right after we read it. So let's put in this one first. So I asked students to, in your own words, can you describe what's happening? Now, they don't have to respond in an open-ended question here, because the whole class is going together. So this is going to be more of a discussion, less of a response to a question. So let me type discuss. What, or let's say in your own words, describe what's happening in this problem. And so the whole video stops and we as a class discuss. I have student 1 share their thoughts. Student 2 add some more details. We agree or disagree with it. We're able to have those peer-to-peer interactions because we're using live mode. So here's the point I was talking about. After we count something like cubes, we want to make sure no students fall behind, just like we would do in class. And so we might put in a stop point just as a checkpoint and make sure all students can keep up. So we could say count out the apples in the problem using your Unifix cubes. Give everyone a chance to catch up before we move forward. And for you as the teacher, it means you can circulate, make sure no one miscounted, or you can correct anyone who counted an extra apple or something. We could also, of course, ask students to help us out with a problem. So let's just do one example. Let's say back here when we were counting on to get to six oranges, we could ask students, how many oranges do you need to add? And so that way, students are going to try it on their own. I'll circulate and see what they're doing, but they'll also input their answers. I'll see those in live time and be able to have a class discussion, get students sharing, all things like that. All right, so that's math class. And I know we're running a little long right now, so I do want to dive back to our slides, finish up, and I hope this was a helpful presentation for you. The big thing I want you to remember from this session is videos are not your entire lesson. Videos are just one piece of the puzzle. Don't use videos because they explain things better than you. Use videos because it will be like having a co-teacher in your classroom. It will give you superpowers to do more than you otherwise could do because you're freed from having to give direct instruction. And so I want to ask one final poll question just as a big thank you for everyone here. But I'm curious to know, we've seen a whole bunch of different results. Or a bunch of different types. We've looked at station rotations, flipped classrooms, in-class flips, live mode, or maybe you're thinking something else in your mind. What are you most excited to try out? Which of those methods of incorporating videos are you most excited to try? Just let me know. Let me know in the poll question. We'll take about 10 seconds to finish up, and then we'll have a big thank you at the end. All right, I'm going to give folks another 5 or 10 just so everyone can please respond to this question. All right, just clicked end. Oh, wow. I actually see live mode, super popular. That is amazing. I recommend all of you look at live mode. It is such a powerful way to use videos, but also to engage our class in those discussions. I also see a lot of in-class flip and a lot of station rotation. So, you know, that's pretty amazing. And I hope for those of you who are not a math, a writing, or a science teacher, that you're still able to apply these same frameworks. You can still use station rotations in social studies. You can use live mode in world language class. There's all sorts of possibilities. And so please be creative and figure out what works best for you to work with videos to boost your student achievement. And so we want to end with a big thank you for investing the time in this session. We hope this was helpful and helps you prepare to more strategically and consistently use videos in your classroom. If you enjoyed, please head over to Twitter, head to Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media you're on. And we'd love for you to send us a message at Edpuzzle, letting us know, what did you learn? What was your favorite part? Help us spread the word, because the more teachers we can get using videos, we truly believe the more that all of our students can achieve. So from the whole team at Edpuzzle, thank you so much. It's been great being with you today, and good luck with everything.